I'm Zach, and I'm actually the general manager of the Tampa Q-Zar laser tag, one of the longest running Q-Zars in the country. I got into playing laser tag like most people do back in England when it was Q-Zar and hadn't even come to the US. I then moved to the United States and Q-Zar followed me. So I ended up getting a job at the first center in Orlando right here, and ended up working through tech to manager to area manager and running the two Orlando locations until they were purchased back by corporate many years ago and then shut down. At that point I'm like, okay, that's the end, I'm moving on to a different career. Then several years later I happened to come back to the Tampa area, and I went into the Tampa location and ended up helping them out for a couple of weeks as tech, training their tech people on the equipment because I knew how to repair the gear. Then they offered me a job as general manager, and I've kind of been there ever since, which was about 7 years ago. I started playing on the Q3 system. So if you know what that is the one where you have the little phaser before they went to the two-handed, and the pack with the speaker on there, and then the battery that could be pulled out of the back, and they were hot swappable type batteries. So then we've progressed through Rev 4, Rev 5, and we're still on about the Rev 5 to 6. They never made the 7, they were going to, but never actually came about. On the American side, they're a company called Q-Zar, obviously. Brought out the franchise for America and started selling franchise systems. They became very dominant in the industry. They were just right at the right time. So there's several IAPAs here where they were the dominant laser tag. You saw I don't know if you've heard of the Q-Babes. No, you haven't heard of the Q-Babes? Oh, they have these really big, extravagant layouts here at IAPA, and one of the things they always had is females in cat suits with laser guns dancing on the catwalks all the way around, and they were the Q-Babes. They had these like every year for the longest time, which was a good idea because it attracted all the guys and stuff to come work and check out the systems. So I worked at one of the first ones in the United States, which was the one on Colonial Drive in Orlando, and that opened up, done by Jeff Stewart of Aspen. They bought the franchise for that area, and then we opened a second one downtown Orlando. So I was running both of those at that point. Several years went by, and then Q-Zar Corporate started offering buybacks on some franchises that weren't making as much money as they wanted. So our centers were purchased back by Q-Zar Corporate. Unfortunately, what they did is they ran them very quickly into the ground. So there was one year we went through an entire summer with no air conditioning in the arena. They refused to pay for an AC company. So what I did, eventually I ran an overnight lock-in, kept the money for that, put it into the AC, and then gave them all the bills. And they were kind of mad at me for doing that, but then I'm like, well, what would you have done? Nobody wants to play in the arena because it's 120 degrees in there. So they're like, yeah, I guess we'd have done the same thing. So I did sort of things like that. I also helped design, if you played in the Orlando ones when they were open, when you went through the Energizer units, there was miniature scoreboards in there, so as you went through you could see. I designed and built those. I also did the automated countdown system before it was all built in and software driven. I did a hardware version of that, so you heard the announcement at the beginning and end of the game. So I built a lot of little bits onto the Q-Zar systems. I'm still adding on at our center because now there's no corporate and no franchise company around. We're all on our own. When I left Q-Zar in the Orlandos, what I did is I started up a company called Q Support, which was supporting all the other laser tag centers, because I realized that their corporate office was charging way too much for their parts, and their turnaround was a month if you were lucky, 6 weeks normally. So I set up offering same day shipping on parts, kind of like Amazon, free 24-hour tech support. So I could remote into their systems and fix it right away. They could call Saturday night 1 a.m. if their system goes down, I would fix it. I'd be there. So basically we ended up shutting the corporate's tech support arm down because we took all the business away. So then I ended up closing that one down after a few years because I realized it was declining market as a lot of the centers disappeared or changed to different centers now that corporate wasn't around. So I did that, and then I worked on other projects, and then I went over to Tampa and went there, because I wanted to play, and ended up helping them out for 2 weeks, training their tech, which is now 7 years later, and I'm still running the place. When I began, it was in the boom area. I mean, it was like we literally, at our centers, we would have regulars waiting in line at the door when we opened, and we would literally have to kick them out at the end of the day. I remember it was great because we would we would like give away some free games. It was like, hey, if you sweep the store for us, we'll give you a free game. And they're like, yes, yes. So it was amazing. I mean, nearly every game was solidly full. We had tournaments. I put together one of the first European World Tournaments in Orlando, bringing in people from 21 different countries. Do you remember how many, the first Orlando tournament we ever did? Do you remember how many teams we had?
We had 12 teams.
It was bigger than 12 because we had Division A and B.
Yeah.
We had 2 divisions.
Yeah, we had 12. We had 12 in the B division that I competed in.
Yeah.
So there was at least 32 teams altogether. I know we had
yeah.
guys from overseas that came in.
Because it solidly ran. The tournament ran a solid weekend. We had 2 divisions. We had people coming from all over. We caught Brazil cheating. You remember that one? Oh, yeah. They had, as you know, the laser tag systems primarily work on infrared signals. They brought in a learning remote, and they were using that to shoot people in the game. And the way we found out is because one of the teams got shot himself by his own pack a whole ton of times, which is, as you know, physically impossible unless there was cheating. And we ended up doing a big investigation right in the middle and banning that team. So loads of fun, loads of stories about the different, the era of laser tag. But that was definitely the boom era. It was great. I mean, there's just so many people playing, and you would literally have to wait like an hour or so between games. And then, unfortunately, slowly over the years declined as the internet basically got bigger and bigger, and there was more technology for people to play at home. I noticed like the arcade where people used to come out to play the arcade between the laser tag because the latest and greatest games were there. Now it's the reverse. It all comes out on home consoles, and then later it comes out as an arcade game. So that's kind of declined the industry, and long gone are really the dedicated laser tag centers that do nothing else. You have to branch into other stuff to become family entertainment centers that have a whole row of things. I think it contributed greatly because they were the first big laser tag hit. Now there were obviously smaller sets around, but they really made it a household name. They had a whole ton of franchise centers throughout the US, so everyone got to know it and play it. There was a lot of publicity about it, so people actually got out and started playing. And I think it was the first game that developed a regular returning player base versus, oh, it's a one-off, okay, I'll try this at some small center. This was where you actually had hardcore gamers that literally lived for the game, and they were practicing covers and designing and seeing all the nuances. So that pushed, of course, a lot of other companies to start up laser tag. But Q-Zar was definitely the first big player in the US. Well, Photon was like the original laser tag, but in the US it wasn't really that big. I don't think it really gained that, not really the appeal. It was still there with a niche market, but I think what Q-Zar did was make it a household name. I think Photon, it was almost like ahead of its time. The technology wasn't really there for ease of use. You have to put on a big helmet and everything was chunky and clunky. I think by the time Q-Zar came to the US with their Rev 4 equipment, the two-handed ones with the plastic armor, there you got the technology was good enough and you got scorecards and stuff so that people could easily do it. It's kind of like VR now. It's been around for ages, but now it's only just starting to become widely adopted. I think it's because people still want to get out and do stuff, and it's a team event. They can come with a few people or come with a whole bunch of people and still have fun and kind of make friends on a social level. So yeah, I see a lot of the kids come in separate to another group, and then after they've played a few games, they're all chit-chatting and sharing scores and trash talking each other. So I think there's still that social level that people want. That's why people come out, and yeah, it's good exercise as well.